Now, welcome to the discussion with FT. Today, we are discussing the Supreme Court issue with the Parliament of Ghana. Anyway, in October, we all heard what happened. There was a declaration of some vacant seats because some MPs have decided to switch allegiance to either go independent or join a political party. And then the speaker was alerted and he declared those seats vacant according to the article 97G. Now, generally, the majority side of Parliament at the time didn't like the ruling, so took the issue to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court ruled in their favor. The ruling came no long ago, I think 2 days ago, and today the explanation of the ruling came in. What was the general take on the whole issue, Sir Black?
Well, good evening to our viewers, out there, both in Ghana and, beyond. I think that, this issue, quite contentious issue in Parliament, and I think that, first of its kind, we're witnessing this kind of Parliament, and for such an issue to have traveled to this far, I think that, it brings much education to Ghanaians or to people who are really interested in this issue. But for now, let me just hold my brief, and then when we get back, I'll speak.
Okay. Adia, what's your take on the whole thing?
Okay. As you said, it's traveled this far, so I think when you look at the whole thing first, from anyone's observation, you'd have thought that, okay, this is black and white, this is how it should be. But then I think there's a reason why the Supreme Court is the Supreme Court, and there's a reason why we need to seek interpretation to know what the framers of the Constitution might have meant when they wrote what they wrote. So we're all getting to know, at least from this judgment, that yes, it may not be what we thought it was, but then I've not taken time to look at the reasoning behind the judgment. I think it just came out today. But it still leaves some weird feelings about it because off your head you can see the absurdity. What if someday someone decides to switch or cross carpets and that person happens to be somebody, one of the big men in one party switching to the other, and then that thing happens? How are they going to deal with it? How will this president help for future decisions to come? There's still something that doesn't make the whole thing so clear. But then, as you said, this is just the prelims. Let's see how it goes with the discussion.
Okay. Now, the whole issue came up from the, I think, Article 97G, where it spoke on a party or a member having to automatically vacate their seats when they switch allegiance to join another political party after they have been elected into Parliament on a particular party ticket. Now, today, this was the meaning, the ruling, actually what led to the ruling of the Chief Justice, like why they ruled in favor of the suit brought in by the majority leader. Now, according to the court, a member of Parliament is considered to have vacated their seat only if they change their political affiliation while remaining in Parliament under a new party identity. Now, to an extent, I'm forced to think this is the same meaning we got from reading the Constitution. Yeah. That's 97G. Or do you think there's any difference from what they've just given?
Well, I think it is still the same thing. So, as to how the Supreme Court really ruled, against the speakers, in a ruling, if I may put it in this context, I think that for the CJ to have ruled, against, the speaker's ruling, I think leaves much to be, talked about, and also certainly to generate a lot of controversies. Within the legal and within the political space. I wasn't expecting that. So sometimes I do ask myself that, with regards to the Constitution, are there so many ambiguities? Because this is what the Constitution says. So if the Constitution says A and another person does B, for clarity and also for conscience wise, I think that the right thing must be done, even though there's a saying that justice lies in the bosom of the judge. They have the final say. So if they have the final say, has it got to do with all? Does it mean that once they were appointed by a particular political leader, they can't speak in favor of the nation, but rather would tilt towards someone's favor? So I think that, to me, it is an awful precedence. It is an awful precedence set by the CJ. Now, let's not forget that a similar thing transpired 4 years back, and the former speaker ruled in favor of
Professor Makokwe.
exactly ruled in favor of that particular MP. That is Honorable Isiama.
Isiama,
Very
ruling,
good.
yes.
And now these same people. These same people who once served under the former was speaker are now saying that their speaker erred.
Now, yes, according to them, you see, I think Article 3(9) of their constitution, of the MPP constitution, says that if you decide to join a different political party or probably become an independent member.
But sorry to chip in, but I believe this particular ruling of theirs, or this particular provision of theirs was picked from the constitution.
It was picked from the you see, when you can't have anything outside the constitution. Even
So
if
now, if you have
the
picked something from the constitution and someone has gone contrary to what you are saying, then in this case it is very clear.
it is very clear. Now they are saying they made a mistake by prompting Professor Makokwe to declare the former seat vacant. And then Professor Makokwe also acted beyond his jurisdiction to declare that seat vacant. So they are saying they made a mistake, and then the professor also erred.
It's unconstitutional.
Yes.
But looking at Professor Michael Kwe, looking at his legal status, as a professor having taught the laws for years to have erred, then I think that he really start down for quote unquote student of his.
So what do you make of the meaning the Supreme Court has brought? Do you think for me personally, I think it's similar to what I see in the Constitution.
Well,
that is not futuristic. They said it here that these provisions are not relevant to future terms, such as when an MP decides to stand for an election under a different party in subsequent elections. But the question is that if a member of parliament decides to join another political party in subsequent elections, that political party, technically they have to be members of that political party before they stand on the ticket of that political party. So if you say it's not futuristic that if they decide to join, it means you're automatically belonging to that political party before you stand on their ticket. Exactly. Or what do you think?
You see, the constitution, okay, it's clear from what we've read, it's clear.
Okay.
But with the Supreme Court's interpretation now, as I said, you see some of the rulings, you have to read deeper for you to know exactly why they're saying what they're saying. So, likely like this, it does look similar. But let's also take it that we surely have to read deeper. But let me take it from the NPP side. The NPP are saying that in as much as their article in their law books is inconsistent with the constitution, or now they are agreeing that whatever they said is not the right thing, so the constitution is what they are going for. In that case, they are right. Because even if you draft the laws and nobody has pointed it out that they're mistakes, so far as it comes to a time when it is challenged and you see that what is in the constitution is different from that, then in that case it becomes irrelevant or is void. So if they can stand themselves and say that, oh, that article of theirs is void, you can't question it.
But they are not saying the article is void. They are saying that their article still stands, but they have procedures they follow before they actually declare you, or probably before you forfeit your membership.
Yeah.
So they are saying that, okay, it stands. If you go join another political party, it doesn't mean you their constitution is saying that you automatically. Now they are saying automatically doesn't mean automatically. They will now have to come and see you. That's what
it
says
automatically.
Yes.
And then I think it goes on to list some of the things that they could do, and that's what they are trying to defend. But the first statement there we say is automatically cancels out whatever they are trying to say.
Okay.
And after the discussions have gone on and on, they themselves have somehow realized that there is a fault to what they are saying. So the best thing to do is to say what, in as much as it is not in line with the constitution, what the constitution says, then to that extent it is void. So for that we cannot question it. But for the Supreme Court to say this is what it is when it is clear, because even before you start saying that I want to join the party, you may not come out to say, but then there are things that you have to do. Campaign and all those things have to start whilst you are here now. So it can be futuristic when at that point you are supposed to be acting as somebody who is campaigning for something else. It could be in the CMS case, it could be the MPP, maybe it benefits him. But aside that, all the other people are not going to be in their party. So as you're standing in parliament representing the people whose rights they say have been violated, you are standing outside campaigning against the party to whom you are also supposed to be loyal.
But in the CMS case, it still doesn't benefit him. See, the CMA was asked out of the MPP. He was sacked. Then he went as an independent candidate,
Yes.
and then the people
For the same constituency.
Yes, and the people chose him. All those MPs are going for the same constituency,
Exactly.
but the people chose him as a person, as an independent candidate, even though he was no longer part of the MPP. They didn't choose him based on being an MPP member. So now, if he switches to join the MPP, does it mean technically it looks as if, well, we didn't vote for you because we voted for you. You came as an independent candidate and we voted for you. Now you've switched to the same party we voted against.
That's a stab in the back.
So that's a stab in the back.
But somehow you see, in this case, it benefits the party, number one.
Yes.
But it may not benefit the people. But somehow too, it may benefit the people because see, he came in, he was on the MPP ticket for the same people.
Yes.
And then they chose him as an independent candidate by the same people.
Yes.
So no matter what, the people still benefited. Okay, but then it's the party that at some point lost in it, and then they became angry. But for the people, the only thing they can be angry for is that, oh, maybe we liked you when you were independent, or we don't want you to serve us on the MPP ticket. Regardless of that, let's talk about the benefits that Parliament would have had to give to these people. You still don't lose anything. You still don't lose anything because you still be saying the same thing. Maybe not on the MPP ticket, so they are not that affected. As the other three, they are not that affected. That is what I think. I don't think they are so affected. But the other ones, because you're going to be saying that even if you don't say anything outward about the party in which you were, what you're going to be bringing to the people is going to be a different message from what you were bringing before.
Okay.
If not, you could just stay where you are and do what you are. So I don't think the people's rights were being violated by they not being represented in Parliament. I even think that by they stepping out to say that I want to stand on a different ticket, you should be out, because in that sense you are violating them, because they gave you their representation thinking that you stand on this ticket either as MPP or NDC, and then you are choosing to betray them by saying no, I don't want to stand there anymore. So even before the time is over, I'm looking out to see where I can stand. And as our politics is, you are not going to be standing for them in Parliament and then go out and say something else. No, by all means, you're going to be saying different things, and that is not fair to the people.
Now, do you think
I don't know how it comes in that Supreme Court says those people's rights are violated in addition to the people who are in
what beats my mind is that, so Black, do you think this would have been an issue if we didn't have a hung Parliament? Assuming we had a clear majority, do you think this would have been an issue?
Certainly not, because I mean it wouldn't be an issue, because I mean once we have a clear majority and we have a clear minority, I mean certainly this thing would have
so these MPs are really not fighting for
no, like no, I mean
from
day one,
they are not fighting for our interest.
from day one, I mean it is clear, very obvious, but I mean from day one, whether you're on the minority side or the majority side, I mean everybody's doing, they are all there for their party and not for their electorate, or not for their constituency. They are all there for their party. I get my point. But you see, it seems that a CMS issue has really, created all this kind of controversy. As compared to the other ones, because for Isiama, I mean, he's been there before, or this thing has evolved around him before. That's how come, I mean, this issue has really gone viral to the extent that it even reached the Supreme Court for them to even come out with a verdict. But you ask yourself that, what about the others? Much is not heard of. I'm talking about, we don't
Cynthia Morrison and
the others. Yes. Much haven't been heard from them. I mean, is it that they're also moving to the butterfly, or where are they going to? So
they are going independent. They lost their primaries.
All of them.
Yes, they lost their primaries and then they are going independent. 1 NDC and 2 MPP.
Very good. So the Cynthia woman who is, the Cynthia woman MPP. No, I'm talking about the NDC man,
Mr. Aka.
Very good. So he belongs to the minority.
Yes. So
in terms of NDC as a party, what do they also say about this?
The NDC raised the issue that
this specific ruling.
I don't really know the pre-approval because that didn't come in line. But what they were saying, the NDC said clearly was that since the guy is going independent, according to the article 97G, he ceases to remain a member of Parliament
for NDC on the ticket of NDC.
So I believe that is what their constitution says, because it was NDC side that raised the
NDC side raised the thing. No, MPP raised the issue.
Both party, both parties' provisions are
No,
in
yes, but I don't know much of the NDC. But the MPP's time in 2020, they raised the issue in alliance to their constitution, the Article 39 or whatever they are. But an NDC raised the issue, the Article 97G of the constitution. They raised it directly per the article that if you come in on a political ticket and then you decide to go independent, you automatically forfeit your seat, you vacate your seat. And then they raise the issue of their member. In addition, they raise the issue of the other three members. That's Mr. Siama go from independence going to MPP, and then the other two. So now that's the thing. Now my other thing, another thing that baffles me is that, do you think it's a matter of integrity, especially looking at Mr. Siama, who has been in this issue before? Don't you think if they actually had, well, I'm not saying, I'm just wondering that if there was an issue of integrity there, don't you think it would have been better for them to come out to say something?
It's surprising that none of them stepped out. I think Cynthia
Morris
came out to say she's still on the MPP side.
Yeah.
It's not, no. Cynthia Morrison, they had a meeting with Cynthia Morrison. Well, that's what I heard. Allegedly had a meeting with Cynthia Morrison. They came out to say that she's still belonging to the MPP side. And then she came out to say that, no, I'm still going independent.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so she came out later to say, after the meeting, she came out to say, no, I'm still going independent.
So she was still adamant.
Initially, the information came that she's still with us. And then she later on came to say that, no, I'm still going independent.
You know, that would have been one thing that would have ended the whole matter, and maybe they wouldn't have had to go to court. And the first thing that baffles me also is that when the motion was raised, the people who were affected have not raised their voice, not to even challenge the motion that so they have no problem. And then we heard that this thing was about human rights. So whose rights exactly? If the people are the ones whose rights have been violated, why haven't they spoken up till now?
So is it?
And it's always been about where they would sit. You know, the work of Parliament has come to a standstill because of where they will sit. So the issue of he comes in that it's about integrity and it's about just their own benefits.
Yeah, they also.
It's about their own benefits. It's not about the people who we are fighting for in courts, the representation or the vacant seat people. They are going on doing their campaign, and you have.
We are speaking of human rights. Do you think this ruling actually really in future will violate rights of the citizens? Because if you vote for me on a ticket, I don't really need to come to you to tell you I'm going for I'm joining another political party or I'm going independent. There's no reason. I can just switch allegiance and I'm okay.
Okay, so now this brings to the issue of patriotism or nationalism. Because as a nation, certainly, I mean, we have divided, set, even as, a multi-religious country. Right, so once there is, party A, there is, or maybe there are various parties, party A, B, C, and D. So, on your campaign, what did you tell them? You told them that if you give me the mandate, I will serve in your interest. Now you get there, it's a different ball game together. You're rather serving yourself than someone who stood at dawn to come and vote for you. So in this case, one, there is sense of disloyalty there. Okay. And two, there is sense of dishonesty. So now you are making the people begin to realize that you are taking them for a ride. You are taking them for granted. Yes. So in this case, you've gone there. When you came, you told us everything. The wishy-washy kind of what, all the stuff that you want to do. Now you've gone there back and forth. So I think that it is good that a CMS issue popped up or happened 4 years for at least discerning minds who really follow to learn something. And I think that, as we are saying, possibly this futuristic is what we are looking into. Possibly not for this, but in future, because a precedent has been set. Right?
So the same thing will happen again.
No, as in people. I'm talking about future in terms of the electorate or the constituents. They will think about this.
Okay. Yeah, we also think about this.
They will think about it to the extent that either whether this year or probably 4 years to come from now, people will think about it that these days you can't trust the MPs because probably at the 11th hour people could switch.
Exactly.
Yeah. So
and there could be some parliamentarians who probably might be thinking of switching or probably going independent or not joining, but for their fear of vacating their seats,
Exactly.
they've decided to remain with the same political parties on which tickets they came to parliament. Now, with this ruling, does it open a gate for them that easily, I don't really mind, if I don't lose my seat? You understand? Like, for example, Alan creating the Afrofronto, the Butterfly Party. There are definitely some members of the MPP parliamentarians who probably are in line with him.
Exactly.
But they will not for fear of vacating their seats. They will not do that. Now, if a ruling like this have come, then do you think the politicians or the parliamentarians will even care? They'll just move.
You see, it's making it even look as if we don't have principles. As you said, integrity. Integrity doesn't come in anymore. So you can do whatever I want to do. You're not held accountable for any of your actions.
I want to find out. I mean, when Professor Makukwe ruled or gave a side of the ruling, was this issue sent to the Supreme Court?
No, it wasn't. Now that's what Hadia said earlier on, that the MPP is not wrong, or the majority is not wrong by sending the thing to the Supreme Court, because we actually, it's something in the provision that whenever there's a confusion, you can send anything there for interpretation. But they are saying that the Supreme Court cannot by itself interfere unless someone brings the case to them.
Okay.
In the case of Isiama, no one took the issue to the Supreme Court because technically there was no hung parliament. So a Siaman's thing didn't really affect anyone. The MPP was in a clear majority. They didn't bother. You should vacate his seat. You are still in the majority.
That's the main reason why it's about the seats. It's about the majority and minority.
So more or less
Not
like
yes,
the number was quite wide.
it was wide.
Not as in like neck to
No,
neck.
no, no, no,
They
no,
were dealing with their party.
It was MPP dealing. So even if NDC should have taken it to court, it wouldn't have benefited them in
Also,
any way.
they had more like a clear majority.
A clear majority.
Right.
But in this
okay
case,
for them
it's 1 to 7, 1 to 7.
Yeah.
If you take one of us out, then there's an issue.
And that is why I would have
Maybe
thought
a tie.
that this pertinent issue should be what the Supreme Court should have paid attention to. Because I'm wondering what the Supreme Court is really paying attention to. The NPP had a problem with Efomina. They dealt with it their own way. It didn't even get to court.
Exactly.
They
That's what
came
I'm
to
saying.
the speaker and asked that, do this for us.
And the speaker
and
did
per
it.
that article, it was okay. You went ahead and did it.
Very good.
And it served your purpose. Then years down the line, you
Yes.
come and say the same thing somebody from the other side is saying should be done.
Was a
You-
mistake.
You don't see, you see something wrong with it. And then you say it's
Or was unconstitutional.
interpretation.
Yeah.
So you send it for interpretation. But you know, you as I said, you don't judge just because you need to judge, but
Yeah.
then you look at the people,
Yeah.
the environment, the
Exactly.
community, the society, and the times in which we are.
Exactly.
So you consider, and the thing is to the speaker anyway,
Yeah.
not to other MPP or
Yes.
MPs.
Yeah.
You can see the thing clearly. Everybody's observation, you can see clearly that it's not about the representatives. Sorry, it's not about the constituents.
No.
It's not about the people who are moving.
It's about the
It's about
legislators.
the people in parliament, the
The people in parliament,
parliamentarians
yes.
who want to remain majority or minority
minority.
till the end of this thing.
Yeah.
And that should be clear to any judge to see that what has been brought, this is the underlying issue. So regardless of what judgment you give, you try to resolve it so that it clears all places, but you've left it open. You've put the speaker in a tight place where he needs to, and everybody seems to think that the speaker should just come, and before he even starts his business, he should get up and say yes, move, because my execution admin stays. So move.
But the speaker last time, some people made an argument that the speaker has not gone against the stay of execution by the Supreme Court, because when they recalled Parliament, he didn't ask for those 4 MPs who supposedly should vacate their seat not to come to Parliament.
He has not even had an opportunity to decide whether he would or would not.
Exactly. So the thing is that he's also said clearly that he doesn't determine where you sit in Parliament.
Exactly.
It's per the political party. If you're in a clear majority, it's become a custom of this parliament that if you're in the majority, you sit on the right side, and if you're in the minority, you sit on the left side.
Parliamentary proceeding, I mean, those on the right are the majority, those on the left are the minority.
It's just a custom they have adopted in Ghana. It's not a law.
But even as much as it's a custom, it is not his place to determine.
So it doesn't
More or less like
determine.
a verbal thing.
So it's verbal thing. So and you see, at the beginning of this parliament, the speaker made it clear for everyone when there was an issue that the majority side and the minority side. We didn't have majority. We usually had the MPP majority, no, majority. So he made it very, very clear. But the whole thing is that he's saying that he doesn't determine where you sit in parliament.
Yeah.
So he can come to parliament and deal with the business of the day, and he will still not tell you, hey, sit here or sit there.
But MPs, I mean, know where to sit because
So
that has been the practice.
exactly. So
It's
right
been the
now,
practice for years.
if the speaker decides to be quiet on the issue, doesn't mean he's going against the Supreme Court. If he comes to parliament, that's the business of the day. He doesn't even mention it at all. He doesn't tell any MP you shouldn't be here or you should be there. He just goes with his business of the day. Do you think it's an action that speaks against the Supreme Court ruling?
Well, I think that for that one, I wouldn't say much because I don't have much knowledge about it.
Yeah, unfortunately,
I don't have much knowledge about that.
he
Because
Because in this
that
case,
was the argument.
Because in this case, like I did say, you see, you're a law student. I mean, with law, everything is about precedence. Because this is the first of its kind.
it's a first of its
It's a first of its kind. But
First of its kind. So
the speaker is trying his best
if this are
to go according to the proceedings in parliament.
You see,
with
Supreme
references.
Court, we can sit here and say that Supreme Court based on how we think they should have judged. But then one thing is also that they are the final, they have the final say.
Yeah,
Yes.
the bosom.
And as to keep the peace, to keep the peace and to ensure that we are all going in line with some rules or laws, it is important that even if you think that the Supreme Court is wrong in their decision, you follow the ruling and then take steps to ensure that whatever is your problem is resolved in the same court. But you cannot just sit back and say, yeah, I won't follow. I
think
won't
I-
follow.
My question is that. My question is that. Okay, you speak.
I beg to differ in a sense that if you are saying that, I mean, find a way to resolve the issue in the same court.
Not necessarily the Supreme Court, but at this point it will be the Supreme Court.
This is the apex court of the land. So afterward, after the Supreme Court, where next? So if you're talking about peace, you see, sometimes we all need peace in this country, but we are looking at logic over emotion here, where, I mean, someone will say that because the CJ is a political appointment, so people surely read clear meanings into that.
We are really clear meanings into it.
People surely
You
read
see,
clear
when we
meanings.
start
But
reading meanings
let's not look at
into it.
peace, and try and
But
the law to the other side.
Okay.
You see,
Yeah.
no, the speaker is somebody we look up to. This is the second arm of government.
Yeah.
Yes.
So somehow, we listen to the Supreme Court and everybody's looking to see what he would do. But you can also not say, it's somehow wrong. That is there. But I think, for my own view, I think he should also be a little bit circumspect, because what do you lose? This is what they want. They've gone to court. It has happened. You had no hand in it. So he's come out to let us know that one side majority.
My question is that.
I think the CJ acted unconstitutional.
My question is that.
She acted unconstitutional.
How do we determine that?
Yes.
Okay.
Now the CJ, you take a case to the CJ. They will tell you we are all working with the Constitution.
Yeah.
If you take the case to the CJ, and for the purposes for which you took the case, the CJ has to work on it. In fact, people even resolve their marriage issues and all that there when it gets that far.
Yeah.
But all I'm saying is that now, assuming I'm the Speaker of Parliament, I've made it clear I don't determine where the political parties sit. If you're in a clear majority, we've made it a custom that you sit on the right side of the Speaker.
It's a verbal practice.
I don't say where you sit. From seat 1 to seat 2 to seat 3, wherever they sit, is the political parties that determine. So they've picked their majority leader, he sits in front, and then those behind to support the majority, the whips and all that. Now I come to Parliament as a Speaker. I'm silent, dead silent on whatever the Supreme Court has said. You've recalled, I have come for the business of the day. Whoever sits anywhere, I wouldn't say anything on it. I just come and say, okay, what's the business of the day? Whatever, go over whatever, and then I move away. Does it mean I'm going against the Supreme Court ruling? Because I've not spoken against it. I have not started before MPs.
That leads to
I'm just silent on it.
That leads to,
until probably a motion is raised
on that
in the House that the Supreme Court has said A, B, C, D. So, Speaker,
What do you have to say?
What do you have to say? But if no motion is raised on it, I decide to just go along with the business of the house. I don't sack anyone. I don't ask anyone, why are you here? I just keep quiet on it and then think. You think I've gone against the Supreme Court?
But I think that you ask yourself that, I mean, who sets the tone for business of the day in Parliament? So certainly, I mean, we have maybe a group of people or someone who sets the tone for the business of the day. And moreover, the speaker can also use his discretion to talk about it or not to talk about it.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So for that one.
Yeah, but we all know where we stand now. In these times, we know where we stand. Seriously, he can choose to do all that, but then that is that's Parliament we are talking about.
Exactly. So my problem is that you see, the same way a motion was raised before the speaker spoke. In 4 years ago too, a motion was raised that okay, this guy is going independent. According to our constitution, he's no longer a member of our party, so he needs to vacate his seat according to Article 97G. Now in this case too, a motion was raised to the speaker. The speaker just didn't get up to declare seat vacant.
Exactly.
But
A motion was
he's
raised.
the speaker.
Yes, a motion was raised. Now the speaker just can decide per his discretion that I will touch on this point when no motion has been raised, and he can decide per his discretion that I remain silent on this thing until a motion has been raised.
But in this case, it's best
most
that
motions are raised by both
sides.
So when it comes, what do you expect him to do? Probably he comes to sit. He says people sitting here and people sitting there. No, he say, hey, Master, because of so we will move to this side.
No, you see, it's been 2 times Parliament has been called, and first you could see NDC was there the first time. He said the quorum was there,
but even with this one,
but then they didn't have the quorum to take a decision.
Yes.
And then the second time to the same thing happened.
Yes.
But you see, it's coming to a point where now the ruling has been given that what you did is unconstitutional.
Yes.
So I don't know whether he's going to come and say, okay, these seats that were declared vacant are no more vacant.
Okay.
So that people can come. Maybe they might have already been there, you don't sack them. But there should be some kind of statement like that's what I think. But I want to also believe that you can't say so far there hasn't been any meeting behind closed doors, because Supreme Court, I want to believe, should not have come in, because what they dealt with was coming in to decide how Parliament work should be done. In the implementation now of their ruling, you can see that they are now trying to determine how Parliament work should be done, because that is what we are deciding now. The rights of the constituents are not here. The people who decide to go vacant or decide to change, they are not worried. But it's Parliament procedures that we are now dealing with. But it still stands to the speaker. This will determine where you stand when he leaves this job he's doing. So he has to do something for us to see. Everybody is looking at him. Those who stand for peace are saying, well, he should just follow for peace. Those who want it so badly are saying that he must follow because he must follow the ruling. You know, there's just something he needs to do. He's come out, he's had a press conference. He's let us know he does not decide majority minority.
Okay.
So regardless, even if he came and stood and saw the people standing, it's clear he's given an idea that he would have gone ahead with what he needs to do.
Yes.
So if they can come in and even stand or even come and sit, because NDC, you see, there are still seats there. But if you want to say by all means, what you want to hear is immediately he comes, he should declare before you come in. That they may not get. You are trying to push the paper. Even if you send me to court and the court says injunction, you cannot come and stand on my door say the court say injunction, don't do this. No, you have to allow me to act. If I don't act, then you can send me back to the court. So they have to allow him to come.
But don't you think,
do what he needs to do. Say something to show that those seats are no longer vacant.
Don't you think the MPP needs to be in the house? Like the last time they record Parliament, they should have been there to raise the motion that this is
they've
what
been told
the
that
Supreme
many
Court
times.
is saying. As a speaker, what do you see about it? So that you hold the speaker by his words.
Yes.
But if you don't come there to actually raise a motion, and then the speaker is dead silent on it, how do you say that the speaker is going against the Supreme Court ruling?
I think that in the heat of all these things, Parliament has been urgent. So asking, like, you know, I mean, definitely, we don't know when we reconvene, you know.
As of now, do you think minority is even of any, see, who does this benefit?
That is why I was thinking the Supreme Court to bring those issues into their
ruling. Do you think minority is even of any essence now? Because most of the MPs are in their constituencies campaigning.
Yeah, and I think coming to, you know, the majority leader as to why the majority didn't, you know, enter Parliament probably a week ago. I think he was interviewed by one of the, you know, media houses, and he said that, you know, that their side or the majority caucus was having their own meeting. That's why and that was very flimsy. That was a very flimsy speech.
It was flimsy, and it was
very
flimsy for them to also say that no, they were expecting him to say something immediately. You don't decide for him at all.
I think that was what they were expecting.
Also did ask a question as to whether the speaker should speak about it, because in this case he will feel quote unquote insulted or disgraced.
Exactly.
So in this, or more or less like belittled. His seat or his
exactly
has been belittled.
The speaker. And the second arm of government.
So that's the third.
Is it third or second? I think it's second. He's second.
Executive legislature.
And judiciary.
So in this case, more or less like a senior minister being queried by.
But they are all.
Everyone has their power.
So he's number two.
Once again.
Yeah, it's like number
the
MPP
or the MPP side in parliament, don't you think they need to be there to raise that motion?
They need to be there. Everyone has made them know that they should have been there.
They need to be there to raise the motion. Or is it just a ploy to make the speaker unpopular?
I think so.
It could be that as well, because in the press conference they made it clear that the speaker is trying to demonstrate what the NDC will do when they lose power. He's trying to mess up democracy.
If they raise a motion and then the speaker says the Supreme Court ruling stays, the NDC has any power to sit where they are sitting.
I think for now, what the Supreme Court has come out with stays.
It stays.
It stays.
So you need to raise a motion.
It stays, but the Supreme Court has not decided whether who should sit at majority. It is still in the parliament where that should be decided. So it is the majority and the minority that have to come together to decide that. And the speaker, looking at the tight corner that he was being placed in, came out to give that press conference and said that he cannot determine.
Those who sit, supposedly were declared vacant as part of the the original parties.
Yes, it's still 137.
It's still 137.
And the speaker said that he took it upon himself to determine, to make it majority group, minority group, for the benefit of that, so that the leading party can have a much greater seat than the minority. He did this.
He did that.
So now that we have 137, we have 137.
Formula 1.
Very good, Formula 1. So now, like I said, the speaker can, for this one, it shouldn't be a hurdle to him.
Yes, but
the MPs should just sit as where they are. Because in this case, we just have how many days? Just a few days or a month.
So right now,
or maybe a few weeks.
If you're NDC, don't you think? Let me ask. If you're NDC, don't you think? If the NDC comes out to say, okay, see, they say we are not law abiding, but we are really law abiding. We've heard what the Supreme Court has said, and the Supreme Court. What the Supreme Court says is final. In order not to put the speaker in that tight corner, to more or less like uplift the speaker a bit, don't you think they could also just come out and say, we are law abiding, we don't want an issue, so we wouldn't sit on the majority side, we'll just humbly move to the minority side, whatever can come, can come.
See, a ruling was given, or information was given, and then the people moved their structure, what they do.
Okay.
The NDC does not even come into this. It's all just trying to add fuel to the heat. They don't come into this. They are seated there. If the speaker is able to get a full house or more than the quorum to start his business, all that to be decided. Whether he leaves it undone and you decide it will be decided, because it's either two things. It's either he's going to say, okay, my execution was stayed, and so those people are free to come in, and they may be in already. Then you can take it from there. He's already had a press conference to say, I'm not the one who determines majority, minority. This is what I did to make sure the hung parliament works. But you've gone ahead to do this. So from there, what do? So he leaves it to you, the business leaders. You can decide. You still want to keep majority, minority, or you sit anywhere. There are things that with this is a landmark, something that has happened, that they need to take some decisions now and not stick to the status quo. So it's either MPP and NDC will come together to think, oh, now we can sit anywhere. Something needs to happen by them. But the speaker has made it clear, looking at what was coming, that he's not the one who determines that. He has gone ahead to make the hung parliament work by adding the formula person to make the majority. But if this is what it is, he has shown where his line is drawn. And also, he's made it clear he's not going back to do that for you. As you sent me to Supreme Court, this is what I'm going. So the least he can do, or the most he can do, is to say these seats are no more vacant. That's the best we can expect. If he goes further, he's generous. But it's up to the people in the house to determine what must go on so that the people put us here get their benefits. And so let's decide: are we going to sit there, or the NDC will say, "Oh, we are waiting for the speaker to tell us to move." The speaker did not tell you to move. So once he gives his ruling that the seats are no more, got to your point.
That's another point. That's another clear point you've made. That the speaker didn't tell the NDC to move.
Yes.
He didn't determine where they sit. But per the declaration, automatically they were in the majority, so they moved.
They did it out of volition.
So technically, with the ruling, that ruling, they automatically they also the minority. They have to move.
Exactly.
So the speaker doesn't.
Unless they decide they will not come.
The speaker that doesn't come
to
in
make
here.
that decision.
You see, when the speaker made the press conference, he made it clear that he only gave an information.
Yeah.
He didn't give a ruling. The information he had from what he was told and from what he saw in the constitution, that's just what he gave out.
That's all.
So automatically, what he said was from the constitution.
Was
constitutional. And then they felt, okay, if per the constitution their seats are vacant, then we are in the majority now, let's go and sit there.
Certainly.
So now the court has ruled against that. So since the court has ruled against that, then automatically you've gone back to what? Your minority position. So when you go to the court, the parliament house, you shouldn't take the right hand side. You should actually take the left hand side. I mean,
the NDC.
But what they are also saying is that, so you see, that's my opinion. What they are also saying is that, but that's what I'm saying, that don't you think
so what if the speaker
that being the speaker being on the side of the NDC, as in he's an NDC member, they could just not put the speaker in a position to just say something. They should just humbly move to the left hand side, and then the business of the day goes on.
See, that might be a nice thing. That is charitable. That is nice.
That's charitable.
But,
yes.
It will be good for us to get to a point where
when
there are
charitable,
issues,
they wouldn't see it from that point of view as being
charitable.
It will be charitable for them to choose that, okay, right now let's just help the speaker and let's move.
Exactly my point. That's charitable. Yes. But what she's
they are fighting for supremacy.
Yeah, but what she's saying is that, see, the thing was decided in parliament. So if we are to move again, then it has to come from parliament.
The work of parliament should begin, and then another motion or another information should be given. Then we know, and then we move to where we are. You see, now the NPP is asking for too much, unfortunately. You are asking for the speaker to declare that what he did was unconstitutional, as the Supreme Court has forced him to do. And you want the same person to tell the NDC people to move for you to come and sit at your place. So he's come out and he's saying that, let me tell you where exactly I draw the line. The rest is your business.
And moreover, I think there was a question about legal interpretation. These are lawmakers.
Yes.
So I mean, sometimes I do ask myself, as a random thought, that why do we have lawmakers?
And also interpret
exactly.
They make the law, someone else interprets.
So in this case, can we have some sort of constitutional amendment for these things, or for some of these provisions to be removed?
Constitutional amendment, I think that's another topic on its own, because I think in Professor Mills' time it began.
Because some of these things
there are
so many ambiguities in the constitution.
So many ambiguities.
We need to set things clear.
Unfortunately, it's been watered again. We now, in fact, we should all pray for leaders. We should all see. Last time, one of the professors in political science was saying that the constitution, originally was drafted in order to. It was drafted in line with the executive. It gave the executive so much power. So even though it was a democracy, the executive looked like it wasn't a democracy. It has power to choose the Supreme Court judges, to choose the electoral commissioner.
The executive was giving much powers.
Too much power.
Much powers.
And that was a risk. Back then it worked.
But we all know how.
But that was a risk. That was a risk, because if you get a tyrant, he will make use of all those powers, and then you see that you are living in a democracy, but that's autocracy.
So that's also another bad precedence.
Exactly. So as for the amendments, I think everyone agrees that we need a constitutional amendment.
Exactly.
Everyone is calling for that.
It's been long overdue.
Long overdue. So right now, my question is that this law by the Supreme Court, who does it benefit? Really? Does it benefit the political parties? Does it benefit Parliament? Or does it benefit the executive? Because if I'm an executive, I'm the president, And then
The
I think
executive more because certainly, I mean, more of this, national issues
my
coming from the side.
my worry is that
Yeah.
my worry is that the executive can have majority in parliament. You see, there was a time about 50 of the majority MPs said they didn't like the finance minister.
Certainly, yeah.
Good. Now they couldn't switch sides because that would mean automatic vacation of their seats.
Indeed.
Into a different political party. Now with this kind of thing, I decide that okay, in future elections, I'm not joining you again. I'm going to join you whilst I'm probably within the middle of the whatever, in order to get back at the executive. And no one can do anything to me. So the executive might also be hurt one way or the other with this law. Now with the parliamentarians, they can move back and forth. Doesn't mean I can move to a political party because it favors me, and then all of a sudden they annoy me again, and then I come back, and then another time they annoy me again, and then I move like back and forth.
There may be, you see, we said the ruling that they gave was similar to what was in the constitution.
Yes.
Yeah.
Maybe they've given other pointers to what might
So
be.
does it mean anytime there's a switch, we have to go to the Supreme Court? Is it the Supreme Court going to be burdened because of this law?
Yeah,
This judgment.
yes, simply because I think that a provision says that if there's something that is beyond the understanding, they can send it to the Supreme Court for further interpretation. So, I mean, once the court is there, certainly interpretations will be what will be needed from them.
Anyway, interpretation is.
Okay, anyway, so this is it. Now the seats the seats are no longer vacant.
So now we have a clear majority.
The majority is not clear. We don't have a clear majority. The thing is, there's 127. There's no clear majority.
Unless we are agreeing now that Fomena is now an NPP member.
The Fomena guy.
But for me, I see, even though I said clear because, or quite clear because this guy can be easily convinced, just as it happened 4 years back.
He's not that side already. He's still an MPP. He's not an MPP member. I'm still trying to get this thing. So if I leave at the middle of probably 2 years into being a parliamentarian, and then decide that okay, in the next election,
that's why
I'm
you talk
joining this
about the
political
constitutional
party.
amendments. Some of these things, some provisions must be clearly
I've not switched allegiance as at that point, but I've told you openly that in the next 2 years I'm joining this. I'm going to campaign on this political party.
But why did he decides to move? Will this be possible?
Why did you ride on the shoulders of another political party to gain power, and then now in the midst or in
you
the
are
middle
now campaigning?
You know, that one is a personal. There may be reasons why there are things that happen that you may decide.
So maybe along the way, maybe
your
felt
values.
like
exactly, but it makes you vacate your seat. That's allowed. Vacation of the seat is the issue.
Yes, but then there should be some principles as to why the person doesn't stay in that party anymore.
So, like I said, has it got to do with someone's principle over the generality of the law?
Well, personally, I think that's it.
So that's what I'm saying, that if we can make some, if we can make some provisions towards that.
That is why those provisions in Article 97 were given.
That's what they were given.
And now they are messing with it.
They are messing with it. So we are in trouble.
Yeah.
Technically, we are in trouble.
Let's see what the full judgment says.
Maybe
some other
because once this has happened, we could have future MPs doing same.
That's the thing. That's just the fear. Now in future, I thought of this afternoon.
Apparently, decided that he was the one who was crossing carpets now.
Yes.
Would they still hold him in business meetings and all the necessary meetings? Would he be able to be held as an MPP member once you hold him back from this meeting? Or you let him still hold these meetings and so hold himself as somebody who's trying to
put it out of the party?
Let me make the assumption very, very clear. Afenimaki decides that in the next election, I'm no longer part of the MPP. I'm going to join and even leave NDC. I'm going to be an independent member.
Movement.
Would he still be the majority leader?
No.
Would he still be an MPP member? Would he still have a seat?
There will be a caucus meeting, and issues to be decided.
For him to actually sit in the caucus meetings and decide what is it? Well, personally, I'm still confused. I won't lie to you. We can go on and on about this issue.
Simply because the Supreme Court didn't act constitutionally. I mean,
but constitutionally, personally, I think that is their constitutional right to give judgment and do what they've done.
Because they have the final say.
Just that.
But if you have the final
Just
say,
that they need to be extremely careful that
But
a political party brought you in as a Supreme Court judge. The political party brought you in as a Supreme Court judge.
Yeah.
So if you are making certain decisions, you need to be extremely careful not to be perceived to be moving in line with that political party. It's your right, it's your job, you understand? But you need to watch the way and manner you do it. In fact, I was watching the judgment, and I was looking at the Chief Justice and her demeanor. And the only thing I was thinking was that is she having an issue with the Speaker of Parliament? Is there any personal issue?
At a point,
because this issue is not a personal issue on the Supreme Court judge. No, something has been brought to you. Do your job and let it go.
Just make a determination.
Make a determination. But I was watching her, and I just looked at her. I don't know. I was sad for her. I was thinking, wow, are people forcing you to make the decision?
I think at a point
is she making a decision because
even in giving the judgment, I felt for something as a landmark issue such as this, you would have taken some more time to speak about it before giving the. But it was just like
issues.
And tomorrow the reasoning will be, you listen to other cases where they give the background for you to understand why. Unfortunately, because that it's difficult for a majority of people to take the judgments that you're coming to bring. So you prepare our minds for it. But for you to just, and then the reasoning will be out tomorrow at but it's still the Supreme Court, and the best thing we can do for ourselves as citizens is to hold trust in them.
This begs the question: are they still independent? No.
It doesn't matter. It's not our place to decide that.
Exactly.
Now our constitution says that the president will determine or will appoint them.
All kinds of surveys, are conducted. The Afro Barometer.
The Afro Barometer conducted said the report has been used by 30%.
But we had judges that way.
I'm not saying that. I'm not saying. But you see, in a situation where you have few being good and majority being perceived to be corruptible, then you ask yourself, certainly,
there's an assumption.
We
pray for the best. But they have the right to review their decisions. So if they should want to sit on this again and then it happens again and they feel that, we made a mistake with the last one, they are allowed to review. They are not held by their president.
Do you think
so there could be another Supreme Court judge. See, there could be another Supreme Court judge who will come in and say,
this was wrong. This was
that will be years to come. But by the time I realize the harm has already been caused. The harm has already been caused.
That's the problem.
The harm has been caused. It sets a tone for bad.
Basically, let's get it straight.
Yeah.
To have peace in the country, you need to believe in the Supreme Court.
Yes.
You can't always agree with the judgment of the Supreme Court, but there always need to be something. You see, the Supreme Court is being made like the God to judge issues. So you might not really like God making you black or white, but you still need to.
So we must be bound by laws.
So it's not easy. It's not easy. Up to now, I'm confused with this judgment of the Supreme Court. I don't know how anyone could explain to me that this meaning given by the Supreme Court is different from that of the Constitution.
Exactly.
But then again, they are the Supreme Court judges. What can I say? The two dissenting views who didn't go along with the other five said the Supreme Court has no power or jurisdiction
over yes, and I believe it's because they felt they would be dealing with parliamentary procedure more than the rights of the people they thought they were dealing with.
So you see,
the last issue in our concluding statement. Now we've heard of SAL, the three constituencies
Four
that are not being represented in Parliament. The case has been sent to the Supreme Court, and then it's been there till now. Is it not against their human rights?
Those are the people whose rights are
because someone has also taken that thing to the Supreme Court, and till now we've not had any judgment
That's
on
in
it.
the last 4 years.
In the last 4 years, and the parliament is still ended. The parliament is coming to a
Parliament's
close.
work has continued,
Has
coming
continued.
to an
They
end.
don't have any representation, and some constituencies that have had representations for almost 4 years, 3 months to
Even
election.
just a number of days.
Just a number of days to election.
Right, sir,
And then we are
Sir.
speaking of
Hey.
human rights. Do you think there's fairness here? That's where we leave
It's
our
not consistent.
and it's
The judgments are not
So,
consistent.
Mark,
We are worried.
yes, I think that's all our time will permit us. This has been a discussion with FT. Until we come your way again, yes, peace.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.